in the last class we have seen how to generate the control signal using hardware. Okay, so we have to hardwire these elements so that it can generate the particular signal. Okay, so this is the example of how to generate Z-in signal. So all these inputs are fixed, you cannot change. Okay, so in your architecture, if you want to add a new instruction, then you have to change the whole logic. These logics you have to change. So that's why it is not flexible. Okay, that's why I have told it is not flexible, but it is very fast. Okay, because all the signals are generated by hardware. Obviously hardware is faster than the software. Okay, so hardware based solution is best. It is very fast, but it is complex to implement because you don't want uh, only a fixed type of architecture. You want to change the architecture based on your need, based on your future requirement. Okay, so that's why the hardwired control microcontroller is no more used. Next comes the microprogrammed control. Okay, the control signals are generated by a program. The control signals are generated by a program which is called a micro routine. Okay, it is called a micro routine. So let's see one example here. There are 7 micro instructions are there. What is these 7 micro instruction? These are the same 7 instructions that we have generated when we have read about addition. Where is that addition? This one. So these are the 7. Okay, these are the 7 steps we took for do one addition operation, this type of addition operation. Okay, so these are the 7 steps. These 7 steps are nothing but micro instruction. These are called micro instruction. Each step is called a micro instruction. Why? Because it is the instruction. This instruction is divided into small steps. So that's why the instruction is divided into small micro instructions. These are called micro instructions. Okay, so now we have to see how to generate these signals for a single micro instruction using software. Okay, in the previous class we have seen how to do it using hardware. Now we will see how to do it using software. Okay, so these are the 7 steps to do one addition operation. Okay, now you can see here it is written micro instruction, and these are all control signals that are present in your system. Okay, all the control signals you have to list it out, and whichever control signals are generated at step number 1, they will become 1, rest will be 0. Okay, rest of the signals will be 0. So this is how we will encode a micro instruction. Okay, so in this case read signal, MAR in, PC out, these are all 1. So let's go to that example. PC out, MAR in, read signal, select 4, add Z in, all these signals are all this signal has to be generated, so the table will have 1 in that entry. Okay, for this Z in, add, select 4 and all this signal, it will be 1. Rest of the signals will contain 0. Okay, so that's why the add, Z in, select Y means 1, select 4 means 0. Okay, then read signal, MAR in, PC out. So these things will be 1 and rest of the signals will be 0. So this type of arrangement is called horizontal organization. Okay, there is a vertical organization that we will read later. This is the simplest way of encoding a micro instruction. Okay, what is a micro instruction? Micro instruction is the steps generated when a instruction is decoded. Okay, so these are the steps which are called micro instruction because the instruction is divided into again small number of instruction. Okay, this is one instruction, This instruction is a part of a program. Okay, now this instruction is divided into all these small number of steps, so that's why it is called micro instruction, nothing else, very simple. Okay, instruction is divided into micro instructions. Okay, so whenever we want to generate this signal, we will put 1 in the value of this table. Okay, whenever the signal will be generated in this step number 1, those signals will be 1, which will not be generated, they will be 0. So it is the same in case of step number 2 also. Whichever signal we want to generate, it will be 1, and this table is fixed. Okay, because we have to do the addition process in the same way all the time. Okay, so all the signals will be generated in the same sequence. Okay, and that's why these signals are fixed. This table is fixed, and these signals per each step is fixed. Okay, the 7 steps consist of a micro routine. Okay, to execute the addition instruction we need 7 steps. So all these 7 steps form this micro routine. Micro routine means it is just a routine, or you can call it as a function. Routine means what? It is a function. Okay, it is called a micro routine because it is executing all the micro instructions due to one instruction, that is add instruction. Okay, for addition instruction you require 7 number of these steps. Okay, each of these line is called a control word or a micro instruction. Okay, so this whole array of values is called a control word. Okay, this whole 0101 values consist of a word called a control word. Okay, it is a control word. We can also call it as a micro instruction. Okay, so this table is simple, understood? This table is an example of the micro instructions generated for the addition instruction. Figure 7.6 means this is the addition instruction that we have seen, these 7 steps. Okay, so the micro routine, this thing of all the instruction of a computer is stored in a special memory called the control store. Okay, the micro routine that you have seen in this example, this total is called a micro routine for the addition instruction. So like that, for multiplication instruction we will have one micro routine, for AND operation we will have one micro routine, for all the arithmetic and logic operation that is performed by ALU. Okay, or the data transfer operation, all the types of operations that can be performed inside a PC, for them one micro routine will be there. Okay, for each instruction there will be a micro routine. Okay, and what is a micro routine? Micro routine consists of micro instructions. Okay, and what are the micro instruction? These values are nothing but the micro instruction, this control word. Okay, got the naming conventions or any doubt in this? Let me know. Okay, so micro routine of all the instruction are stored in a special memory called control store. Okay, micro instruction of all the instruction that are supported by that computer. Okay, all the type of instruction that are supported by the computer, for each instruction there will be a micro routine and they will be stored in a special memory called control store. Okay, so now how this works? The control unit can now generate the control signal for any instruction by sequentially reading the control word of the corresponding micro routine from the control store. So from the control store, the control unit will directly, suppose we want to we are doing the addition operation, so the controller will do what? It will keep on reading this, and based on this it will generate the signals whichever is 1. Okay, it can do it sequentially one by one. In every clock cycle it will execute one instruction, one micro instruction. Okay, very simple. Okay, so from where it will get the micro routine? From the control store. Okay, so this is the hardware organization, simple one. This is the instruction register. Okay, instruction register, whenever it will see that there is an addition operation, it will send the starting address for the addition operation. What is the starting address? Starting address inside the control store. Okay, because micro routine, this micro routine we have told that this is the micro routine for the addition instruction. So this routine will be stored somewhere inside the control store. So where it is located, the first address we have to send, so that from the first address we will keep on generating the signal sequentially. Okay, done. At the end, whenever we will face the end signal, the micro routine execution will be over. Okay, so this is the thing. So whenever instruction register will check that I have one operation like addition, subtraction, multiplication, whatever operation I have, then it will send the starting address of the micro routine, this micro routine, or you can call it as a function. This total thing is a function. It will just call that function, call the addition function, and this addition function consists of all these micro instructions. Okay, so this micro instruction is present in this special memory called control store. So we have to send the starting address of that micro routine. Okay, so after generating the starting address, it will be given to the micro program counter. Okay, micro PC is a counter. It is the same, it is like the PC value, but it is not that same PC. It is micro program counter. It is a separate PC value for these micro instructions. Okay, one PC value will be there for normal instruction. This is the normal instruction. This will be executed, and PC will point to the next instruction after this instruction. Okay, but to execute the micro instruction, we also need a micro program counter. Okay, so for every clock cycle, the micro program counter value will be incremented, and it will go to that starting address, and it will generate the control word. Okay, what is a control word? Control word is the this horizontal row. Okay, so it will keep on generating one signal after one signal sequentially, then your addition operation is done. Okay, simple. So this is the thing. So in this case also we will have some external inputs. We will have the condition codes. It is similar to the hardware, but there is no hardware required for this except for a memory, special memory unit. Okay, so this is the hardware requirement for the hardwired control signal. Okay, in this case also there is a counter. In this case also there is a counter which is called the micro program counter. Okay, so any doubt in this case? This is over. Okay, so the control unit can now generate control signal for any instruction by sequentially reading the control word of the corresponding micro routine from the control store. So from the control store, it can sequentially read the micro instructions, and it will generate the control word row by row for every clock cycle. Okay, clock will be given. So first clock cycle, first row will be read. This is the first row, and all the control signal will be generated. Then the clock value will be incremented. Okay, in the next clock value, micro program counter will point to the next instruction and generate all these type of signals. Okay, then that is that signal CW. Okay, CW is control word. Okay, I have told you what is a control word. It is the row, this row. Okay, or the micro instruction. So it will keep on generating micro instruction one by one for every clock cycle. Okay, the IR generates the start address of the micro routine. So from IR we will get the starting of the micro routine. So where is this micro routine is located? So the start address will be given to the micro program counter, and from that it can easily generate all the signals row by row. Okay, the micro program counter increments the address to get successive micro instruction per clock. So the micro program counter will increment itself in every clock cycle, and it will generate the control word sequentially. Okay. uh, the one thing is that it cannot check the conditional branching, so a special conditional branch instructions are provided. Because it cannot able to check the condition codes, special type of micro instructions are provided to check the condition codes. Okay, and these micro instructions specify which condition code to check. The micro instruction, the special type of micro instruction that are added, those are not there in this hardwired control signal, because here everything is hardwired, so you can directly get the input. But in case of the software solution, you have to provide some special micro instruction which will go to the condition code register, the status register, and check a specific location if it is 1 or 0. Like suppose we want to do the branch instruction based on negative result, if the n flag is set or reset. So based on that, we have to write a micro instruction that will go to the condition codes. Condition code means the status register, and check the n bit. Okay, and check if it will jump or not jump. Okay, so all those things can be performed by using a special micro instruction. Okay, that is called conditional branch micro instructions. Now I have told you that micro instruction can be organized in horizontal organization or can be organized in a vertical organization. This is called the horizontal organization. Who can tell what is the disadvantage of this horizontal organization? Who can tell what is the disadvantage of this type of coding scheme? We are coding 1 bit per signal. So what is the disadvantage in this case? Is it needed to specify 0 and 1 value for every control signals? Because there will be multiple number of control signal which are more than 100, or I don't know, it will be very big. So if it is 100, then the control word size will be very long. Okay, it will contain lots of bits of data, and most of the data are 0. Some 1, 4, 5 number of values will be 1, and rest of the value will be 0. Okay, so that is the disadvantage of this type of organization. First thing is that in the computer there are different kinds of signals are there. There are lots of number of signals. That's why it is written dot 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 here and here. Okay, so there are lots of different signals are there. Different signals are required to handle different types of operation. Okay, so in those cases, if we are coding like this, then the control word size will be too long, because there are lots of signals are there and all the values will be 0, some of the values will be 1. Okay, so that is the disadvantage of horizontal organization. Then what will be the solution? What will be the solution? The signals are mutually exclusive. Like read and write operation cannot be generated simultaneously, because when some operation is happening, suppose read operation is happening, the same instruction cannot generate write operation. Okay, so read, if read is there, then write will not be there. If write is there, then read will not be there. Okay, so they are called mutually exclusive. Okay, if one register is being read, it cannot be written at the same time. So that's why when RI in is activated, RI out will not be activated. So something like that, some signals are there which are mutually exclusive. Okay, so another example is that only one function of ALU can be activated at a time. So ALU can perform one operation at a time. It cannot do both addition and multiplication at the same time, right? So we can group the signals together. Whichever signals are mutually exclusive, all the mutually exclusive signals will be grouped together. Then after the grouping is done, Suppose example 16 available ALU operations are there, they can be represented by 4 bits only. Why to represent them in 16 number of bits? We can generate only 4 bits, so 2 to the power 4 is 16. Okay, so 4 bits are enough to specify 16 number of ALU operation. So like this, we have to group all these operations together. So this type of operations means this type of what is this coding of the micro instruction is called horizontal organization. Okay, this type of coding the signals, grouping the signals and code them is called the horizontal organization. But only thing is that in vertical organization we will sorry, this is the vertical organization. In case of horizontal organization is faster, because vertical organization will require some decoder to decode this code. Okay, we need some hardware, extra hardware called a decoder, which will decode this code and generate this output, this signal. Okay, so a decoder will be needed, like here it will be written decoder, and some 4 inputs you will give, then it will give the signal called MDR out. Suppose the input is 0010, then decoder will see the code is this, then it will generate the specific signal. Okay, so Subramaniam is asking, does control signal generation happen parallelly with instruction fetch or after that? It is generated parallelly. Fetch, instruction fetch. Instruction fetch also requires some control signal, right? In this case, we have already read this one, a complete instruction execution. So for instruction fetch also we require these many number of control signal. So obviously these signals will be generated parallelly. These things will be generated parallelly. In this step, these number of signals will be generated parallelly, but this and this cannot be generated parallelly. That's why they are in other steps. Okay. For control signal generation, there is also a delay. For control signal generation, no, there is no delay. Every clock cycle they will generate these signals. But if there will be a read operation, obviously there will be a delay, because read operation has to go to the main memory if there is no cache. If data is available in the cache, then this read operation will be solved by the cache, not by the main memory. Okay, so in this case we thought of that this read operation is going to the main memory, but if in between cache will be available and cache can provide that same data, then this read operation will be done faster way. So most of the cases, these micro instructions are executed in one clock cycle. Okay, so there is no delay. Okay, so this is the micro instructions. So control signals, you know how to generate now. So control signal can be generated in hardwired control signal or micro programmed controller. These are called micro program controller. Okay, so hardwired controller we have seen, this controller can generate the signal based on hardware. Here we have seen this can be generated based on software. Okay, because these programs are stored in the control unit, in your control store, and then every micro instructions are executed one by one, and based on the number of ones, those signals will be generated in every clock cycle. Okay, very simple. So micro instruction can be coded either in this way or in this way. Okay, so F1 bit means, suppose if we want to generate some signal called Z out, then the F1 field will contain 0011. Because it is a Z out, the R0 out, R1 out, R2 out, R3 out, these things cannot be generated, this signal cannot be generated because they are mutually exclusive. So only Z out will be generated. Okay, because whenever there is a register out, the data will go to the bus. So this thing is talking about your single bus organization. Okay, so whenever there is a Z out in the bus, the value of Z will be there. So at the same time, if I will do R1 out, the same bus will cannot contain two data. Okay, so that's why these instructions are mutually exclusive. So we have to put them in one group and we have to code them starting from 0000. So 0000 has no operation. Okay, no transfer. That means we don't want to transfer any data from the register, then we can write 0000. Okay, so in the previous case, if you go for horizontal organization, suppose there are 100 number of control signals are there here, then what is the number of bits in control word? It is 100, because there are 100 number of signals. So for each signal there will be either 0 or 1. Okay, so our control word contains 100 number of bits. Now as we have grouped them together, so obviously it must be less than 100. Okay, because 4 bits are needed to identify 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Okay, so 4 bit replaces 9 bit, and here also some 3 bits replaces 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 number of control signals. So obviously the 100 bit length will be now reduced to somewhat half or something, depends upon the number of group elements, how many number of bits per group. Okay, so that's why this type of vertical type of organization is better, but only thing is that the vertical organization will require a decoder, okay, to decode these numbers. What is the meaning of 0101? So the decoder will decode it and then it will generate the specific signal. Okay, so that's why it is slow. So the vertical is slower than the horizontal organization. Okay, so that's the end of this chapter number 8. Okay, very small chapter. So our hardware control is over, microprogram control is over, multibus organization is over, control unit is over. Next data path is also over. Next is pipelining hazards. Okay, so the chapter number 8 is pipelining hazard. So I think I have told you about hazards in chapter 1 or 2 while we have discussed pipelining. Can anybody confirm me, we have read about hazards or not? Pipelining hazard. Okay, so if you have remember what is pipelining, there is a fetch stage, there is a decode stage, execution phase, and there is a write back phase. Okay, so fetch means instruction fetch, decode means decode the instruction, execute means execute that instruction, and W means write the data produced by this instruction. If any result is produced, write it to the register. Okay, so now if we do it sequentially, the instruction 2 will come from this clock cycle onwards, but we can overlap them, because whenever we are decoding, the fetch unit is free, so we can fetch a new instruction. Okay, so that's what the pipelining works. Whenever there is a free unit available, the next instruction will occupy that unit. Okay, and that's how the pipelining goes. Okay, so if we execute these 4 instructions sequentially, it will take how many cycles? 16 cycles. And in this pipelining manner, if we are executing, it takes 7 cycle only. Okay, so almost half. Okay, so that is the advantage of pipelining. And how this pipelining is implemented, there is a buffer in between each stage. So inside fetch and decode stage there will be a buffer. Buffer means temporary storage, because some data is present here and it has to transfer to here, some data is present here, it has to transfer to here, and a new instruction is coming in the next class cycle. So that's why a temporary storage is used for temporarily store the data of any unit. Okay, for temporarily it will store it, and whenever it is free it will just send it to the next unit. Okay, so these are called interstage buffers. So there are four stages are there in this case, so 3 buffers are needed here. Okay, so this is the hardware organization for the pipelining. One thing you have to remember that each unit perform its task in one clock cycle. Each of these units perform its task in one clock cycle. So they wants to perform their task in one clock cycle if it is not a complex type of instruction. Okay, so mostly fetch, decode and write is done in one cycle. Sometimes execute will take some more time. Okay, that we will see. So that's why you can see the clock cycle 1 fetch is over, clock cycle 2, so fetch unit is free, so we can fetch the second instruction. Clock cycle 3, the first unit is executing, the first instruction is executing, the second instruction can decode, because decode is already freed by the instruction number 1. Okay, so this is how we will continue with our pipelining. Okay, another thing is that cache memory helps in feeding the instruction. So how they will get all the instruction after one clock cycle? If we are normally do the fetch instruction from the main memory, the fetch instruction can this fetch thing cannot be done in one clock cycle, because if we are fetching from the main memory, then we have to issue one read operation, then main memory will take some time to find the data, then it will send it to your processor, so it will take multiple clock cycle. But because we have cache in between, and if cache has the data that we are asking for, then we can supply in every clock cycle, we can supply the next instruction. Okay, so that's why we are assuming that fetch cycle will take fetch will take one clock cycle only, and every other will take also one clock cycle. Okay, but what is pipelining hazard? But whatever we are discussing here, one clock cycle, that is not possible all the time. So there are some problems in pipelining, those are called hazards. So what is a hazard? Any condition that causes the pipeline to stall is called hazard. Stall means what? Anything that causes the pipeline to stop working for temporary amount of time, then it is called a stall or bubble. Means it will stall means no work will be done in those clock cycles. Okay, so what is this? Suppose for example the execution unit takes more than one cycle to execute. Suppose this is a division instruction. Okay, division instruction normally takes multiple clock cycle to execute. So this instruction number 2 is executing for how many clock cycle? 1 2 3 clock cycle. Okay, as the execution unit is occupied by instruction number 2, instruction number 3 cannot able to use the execution unit because it is occupied by the previous instruction. Okay, so it has decoded and it is waiting for 2 clock cycles, so that's why this 2 clock cycle worth of work is lost. Okay, we cannot able to overlap in this space, so that is called a stall or a bubble. Okay, so like that fetch unit is already fetched the instruction, but it is waiting to decode because the decode unit is already occupied by the previous instruction. So that's why this two clock cycle bubble will be there until the till all the instructions. So this two clock cycle bubble or stall is means not recoverable. Okay, so whenever we get a bubble, that means it is a wastage of time for the processor. Okay, so our motive is to reduce this bubble. Okay, so this is called a hazard. Due to the hazard we got one bubble or stall, and that's called the hazard. Okay, so in this case it is due to the execution takes more time for division. Okay, there might be condition when there is a cache miss. So if there is a cache miss, it will take a long time to fetch. Okay, so how many clock cycles are wasted? 1 2 3 4. So it takes 4 clock cycle instead of 1 clock cycle. That means what? The other instruction cannot be fetched. They have to wait till the fetch process of the previous instruction is over. Okay, so that's why we got this many number of bubbles. How many are there? 1 2 3. 3 bubbles we will get. Okay, so 3 bubbles we have got, or if it will take more than 4 clock cycle, if 10 clock cycle, then 9 bubble will be there here, and that's what it is called instruction hazard or control hazard. Okay, so this type of problem is called instruction hazard or control hazard. Due to the uh, due to cache miss, we have to go to the main memory and fetch the data. Okay, so the main memory fetching is very slow, so that's why we have to use so many number of clock cycle, processor clock cycle, for only fetching a instruction, so the other instruction cannot able to continue in the pipelining. Okay, so that is called your control hazard or instruction hazard. There is also a case of data hazard. Okay, so what is data hazard? Suppose there is an instruction called R1 equals to R2 plus R3. Okay, and R6 is equal to R1 plus R2. That means what? The R6 to be generated only after addition of R1 and R2, but R1 data will be available after this operation will be completed. Understood? The R1 data you will get it from the previous instruction. The previous instruction is currently executing. Okay, so next execution phase is over, it will go for writing, but till now this data is not available. After writing phase only this data will be available, then only this instruction can go for execution stage. Okay, then you will get 1 or 2 bubble. Let's see. So the first phase is fetch, decode, execute and write. So instruction 1 is currently executing, suppose. Instruction 2 is here. Okay, instruction 2 needs the data R1 to continue to execution phase. Okay, so in the next step, this is the condition currently. Okay, so in the next step, this is the condition now. In the next step, what will happen? I1 will go to write phase. So let's go to write phase. I1 will go to write phase, but I2 cannot be here. I2 cannot start its execution because the first instruction is still writing the register R1. Okay, so I2 has to wait in this decode phase, decode phase only. So we will get a bubble here. Okay, so after this clock cycle, when R1 is written, then only R2 can go to the execution phase. Now when R1 will be available, then only instruction 2, this instruction 2 will go to the execution phase. Okay, understood? So clock cycle by clock cycle you have to check. In the clock cycle, in this clock cycle, I1 is in execution phase, I2 is in decode phase. To in the next clock cycle, I1 will be in the write phase. Okay, but I2 cannot go to execution phase because the data is not available. R1 is not available because it needs the data R1. Okay, so R1 is not available. It will wait for this instruction to be complete and return write the result to R1. Okay, then only I2 can come to execution phase. So due to that there will be a bubble in this case. So that type of hazard is called data hazard. It arises due to data dependency between two instructions. Okay, there is a dependency exists between this and this, so that's why there is a data hazard. Okay, so another type of hazard is called structural hazard. Okay, so when two instructions require the same hardware resource at the same time, when two instruction requires the same hardware resource. So in this case, suppose we will take R1 register as a hardware resource. This instruction wants to write it and this instruction wants to read it. So when there is only one hardware exist and two instruction wants to access it, then there will be a structural hazard. Okay, example is one instruction is writing and another instruction is fetched from the memory. Suppose one instruction wants to write to the memory, main memory. Okay, and another instruction wants to fetch its data from the memory. So in that case, memory is one, so they cannot do multiple operation at the same time. That's why what will happen, it will be a structural hazard, so few cycles will be wasted. Okay, due to this structural hazard. Done. So next is data hazard. We will read little bit more. We have already seen what is a data hazard. Okay, so in that case, suppose the example is R2 and R3 are multiplied and it will be stored in R4. R5 and R4 will be added and it will be stored in R6. So there is a dependency exist in between this R4 and R4. So R4 will be written, then R4 will be written, then only addition operation will proceed further. Okay, so when two operations depends on each other, they must be performed sequentially. When two operations are depending upon each other, because this second instruction is depending upon the previous instruction, then the two instruction has to be performed sequentially because there is a data dependency. Okay, so that's why what will happen here, this is the multiplication instruction, and currently it is I think it is in the addition instruction is this one. So addition instruction requires the R4 result, but R4 result is not yet available, so that's why we will get one hazard here, means we will get one bubble here. Okay, so that whatever I have discussed here, so the same thing, because the data is not available, we have to wait for the instruction to complete its data writing to the register. So after the data will be written to the register, then only we will start our decoding and then execution of the instruction. Okay, so due to that we will get we might get one or two bubbles. Okay, depends upon the hardware. There are several different operation can be performed to reduce this type of bubbles. Okay, so the first one type of operation is called the data forwarding. Okay, data forwarding is used for reducing the this number of bubbles in the pipelining due to data hazard. Okay, so what has happened in data hazard, because data hazard appears, we have to wait for the writing of the instruction, previous instruction, we have to wait for the writing. Okay, so let's take one example. In data forwarding, what will happen, very simple. So instruction 1 is this one, and it is suppose in writing phase, fetch, decode, execute and write. Okay, suppose instruction 1 is here, instruction 2 is here. Okay, so this is without data hazard, this is with and without. We will make two columns so that you can able to understand. Okay, this is without data forwarding, what will happen, and this is with data forwarding, without data forwarding. Okay, so what will happen, this is the condition now, and currently in this cycle, either data forwarding, our instruction is there in execution phase I1, and I2 is there in decode phase. Okay, then what will happen here, let me write it like something like a different way in our this is I2, execution 1 is going on, decode 2 is going on. This is the way they are writing, right, in this book. Okay, so the instruction 2 is writing. Okay, so what will happen in the next clock cycle? This is one clock cycle. In the next clock cycle, what will happen? Let me copy this part. In the next clock cycle, this is clock 2, in means next clock cycle. What will happen? This execution will go to here E1, but decode will be there, so we will get one bubble here. Okay, this is one bubble. Okay, but what data forwarding says, data forwarding says that whenever the execution will be over, whenever this execution is over in this clock cycle, in the clock cycle, suppose clock 1, this is clock cycle 1. So whenever clock cycle end of the clock cycle 1, end of this clock cycle 1, the result is already there in the interstate buffer. Have you understood what I am saying here? The interstate buffer will have the result after the execution phase is done. So why not forward this data to the next instruction? Understood? Data forwarding means why to wait for the writing phase. In this case, we have to wait for the writing phase. That's why we got one bubble. So with data forwarding, what will happen? Let me copy this part. In clock cycle number 2 with data forwarding. Okay, so with data forwarding in clock cycle number 2, what will happen? Why to wait for the writing phase? Why not forward the data to the next instruction? Because the data is already available, because after execution the data is already generated, but it is not yet written to the register. So that's why you forward the data to the next instruction, so that the next instruction can continue. So now we can execute the next instruction. Understood? Any doubt in this case? We have forwarded the data from the previous instruction to this instruction. Okay, so that's what this data forwarding means. So data forwarding means forward the data, already generated data, okay, to the next instruction, so that there will be no bubble in this case. Okay, because execution is already over in the previous cycle, so just send that result to E2. That means to the next instruction. This is called data forwarding. Okay, so let me go to here. Okay, so the technique is called operand forwarding or data forwarding, where you have to just forward the data to the next for the next instruction. So there has to be a circle like this. Okay, you can able to see this one. After the execution unit, whatever the buffer is there, the buffer is connected to the execution unit like a circle. Okay, so whatever data is generated here, it will be forwarded to the execution unit, so that the next instruction will get the data in the execution unit. Okay, so that's what I have told here. So whatever data is there, it went to the execution unit. Okay, and the next instruction execution can start by getting this data. Okay, so that's what it is called. It's called also operand forwarding. Okay, it is called operand forwarding because this R1, R2, R3, these are called operands. Okay, They are all operands. So it will forward that result to the execution unit, and the execution will be done in the next clock cycle without having any stall or any bubble. Okay, so that's what is the operand forwarding means. Rest things we will see in the next class, because I have not yet written up to this. I have written. Okay, so Subramaniam is asking, but we need to forward only when we need it in next instruction. No, we will forward it every time, but if the next instruction does not need that data, then it will not use simply. Okay, so control signal will be there. It is very complex thing, it is not that much simple. Obviously control signals will be there to read the registers R1 R2 all those things. So whatever we have read till now, we are only looking at only the operation, how it will be done. Means what will be done. It is fetching. That does not means it is only fetching, it is doing lots of work. Decoding means it will be decoding means what is the instruction that is fetched, it will decode it, plus it will get the data that is required to execute. Okay, so decoding does not mean what is the instruction we have fetched, like addition instruction or subtraction instruction. In the decode phase we will also see what from which register we want to get the data. So in the decode phase we will also get the data from the required operands has to be fetched before execution will start. Okay, so that's why the decode unit will decode the instruction. Decode the instruction means it will find the operation, plus it will find the data, means sources, from which source this these are the source, so these source are available or not. This also will be checked by the decoder unit. Okay, so decoder function is two way, it will find the operation. Okay, also it will find the sources, from which source the data will come for the operation. Okay, so these things will be very much complicated, but I am not going in depth because that will be done in your advanced computer architecture. Those things are not there in this normal computer architecture. Okay, so just know how this thing works. The operand forwarding means just forward the already available data to the execution unit, so that if the next instruction needs it, then it will have the data. If does not need, then it will just ignore the data. Okay, because in the previous phase the decode unit has already got the data from the both source, so in the execution unit it will just add it. But if it needs the data, then it will need the data from the previous phase, and the previous data is there, then it will do the addition operation. Okay, so in this case it already has the R5 data, it is waiting for R4 data. R4 data will be provided by the previous instruction using operand forwarding. Okay, so now R4 and R5 are available, then they can go for addition operation, that means execution. Okay, so in the execution unit they will be added. Okay, so now there will be no bubble. Okay, so that's the simple concept. If the next instruction does not need R4, then it will just ignore the forwarded operand. It will not access this because they have their own data already. Okay, so it will just go for addition operation or whatever operation. Okay, then we will see how to tackle with instruction hazard. We will see how to tackle this structural hazard plus data hazard. Some more techniques are there. Okay, so that also we will see in the next class. So mostly we need another 2-3 class to finish the last unit. Okay, so maybe next week Monday it will be finished, and up to I think 9 December is the last date for your classes. Okay, so before that if you have any doubt you can ask, and your exam will be conducted around on and SEM will be there on 14 December I think. Okay, so around 14 or 13 December, so you will get just 1 week to prepare. So you start preparing then if you have any doubt, you can ask me on the Monday class, or if you want, you can we can do a separate class for doubt clearing also. Okay, so you finish the reading, because all videos and everything are available, so you just finish the reading, and then